Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to Revelations with Rowena. Dr. Rowena Winkler here, and I am so excited to have a wonderful conversation about the tarot with Izolda Trakhtenberg. And I remember when we first met up to chat through what your journey was and what led you to the work that you're doing now. I was just floored by all of the magic and the synchronicities and also how much we actually had in common. So I'm delighted to have you here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it was amazing. We were chatting so much. It was like two old friends almost immediately.
Yeah, I feel like that tends to happen a lot in these spaces, right? You just find your tribe, your crew that gets it, that gets the tools that we're about to talk about today and just flows.
Yeah, for sure.
So the way that I kick things off is just to have you speak briefly or not so briefly about your journey and what led you to do the work that you're doing now, and yeah, any insights or revelations that came up along the way.
So, do you have like 4 hours?
I know, right?
Uh, yeah, it's a great question, and it's just one of those things where I started before I even knew I started, right? I was born in the
Yes.
former Soviet Union, and I was taught how to read regular playing cards by my great-grandmother. And I had no idea. I was 4 years old, 5 years old, something like that, but she would tell me about this means that and that means this, and I thought, "Cool." And then we immigrated to the USA through a year-long process, and years went by. I completely forgot about learning how to read cards, and I was in a bookstore, Borders bookstore, and I saw the tarot card display, and I went, "Huh, wait a minute, this is familiar." And so I bought a deck and went, "Ah, this is what Grandma Golda was talking about." So I started reading. I was, I think, 15, 16 years old, and then turned professional just a few years after that. And as part of what I do, I help my coaching clients learn and figure out and determine their path. And to get some intuitive guidance, we apply the tarot. I've
Mhm.
worked at a lot of different places. I read tarot cards at the 2015 White House Halloween party, which was super fun.
That's an
That
awesome claim to fame fun
I
fact
know.
there. Like,
That's
who
right,
else can say
exactly.
that?
There are other people who can say that, but I get to say that I worked the 2015 one. I mean, it was a party. It's not a real thing as far as, like, no one's coming to me and going, "Tell us whether or not we should, push for this bill or whatever." But, it's a lot of fun to get to work with some of these people who are very by the book, but when you're at an event like a Halloween party or other kind of corporate event, they let their hair down and you get to talk about some things that they wouldn't normally talk about,
Very
and
fun.
it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun also to sort of talk about some of these deeper subjects with people who are not used
Mhm.
to talking about them in that way.
Mm.
So, sideline or side note, I worked at NASA for many years doing environmental education, and so the way I have sort of come to my coaching practice and reading tarot has been both sort of through a traditional means by my great-grandmother,
Mm.
and also through the sort of very specific symbol interpretation in a very almost scientific and practical way of utilizing the cards. So I combine both the sort of, traditional, this is what my great-grandmother passed down to me, with this is how it works on a very practical level, and it took a while for me to understand that it was okay to not be woo-woo about it. I am not
Mm.
particularly woo-woo. This is symbol
Mhm.
interpretation with intuition, and the
Mm.
revelation about that was that it was okay, that
Yeah.
you don't have to have a sort of a spiritual mindset unless you do have one, but you don't
Mhm.
have to have one to
Mhm.
read tarot and read tarot really, really well, and it took a long time for me to get to that point, and really, I think I figured that out when I developed my own deck during that was my big COVID project. I developed my own tarot deck, and it's called the Practical Tarot for that for
There
that
you
reason.
go.
So the revelations came fast and furious when I was figuring out what were the symbols that I wanted to have on all of the cards, and then
Mm.
the sort of the final touch as far as revelations goes, I finished all 78 cards and I went, "You know what? I believe the tarot is actually a symbolic representation of the human experience." and we're missing a few. So I added 6 cards to the deck to round out
Ooh.
what I think are sort of the rest of the human experience, and there's something really powerful to me about that because now it feels like I've got it, and I
Yeah.
can walk it in confidence.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, if you don't mind, can we
Mhm.
just back up just a little bit for our friends who may like know of the tarot but may not be super familiar with it, in
Sure.
your own words, like how do you see the tarot? What is it used for traditionally, or I guess, in your own work?
Okay. Well, traditionally, we don't know how far it goes
Mm,
back. They say that it goes back to the ancient Egyptians, but we have no written record of that. Some
mhm.
people think hieroglyphics were sort of a very nascent form
Yeah.
of tarot. We do know that the Catholic Church was using tarot as recently as the 13th century. So that
Mm.
was and in fact, the oldest surviving tarot deck resides in the Vatican, which I think is really interesting. Yeah, I
Interesting.
know. Isn't that cool? So
Yeah.
to me, what the tarot is it's a system that allows you to again intuit based on the symbols and the stories that each
Mhm.
card contains. So there are 78 in a traditional deck, and just like the regular playing card has suits, for example, hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds, the tarot also has suits, and in fact, the tarot is the ancestor of the regular playing deck. So, what you think of as spades are actually swords, what you think of as diamonds are actually coins, cups are hearts, and clubs are rods or wands. And what they did is they kept those smaller the pip cards and the court cards, but they got rid of what is known as the major arcana, which are sort of the greater than day-to-day stuff of life cards, except one. Which card do you think they kept? What is your thought, Rowena?
Oh, is it the Fool as the
It is.
Joker?
The
Yeah.
Fool is the Joker, exactly. So
Yeah.
so when they were developing the regular playing deck, they got rid of the life cycle, which
Mhm.
the major arcana are, the 2 sort of I can't say halves, the 2 parts of the tarot deck. And
Sure.
so what we can look at as far as all of this going is that it is something that allows us the opportunity to have both day-to-day guidance,
Mm.
and it allows us to have sort of greater than day-to-day, more
Mm.
lofty ideal kind of guidance, and the guidance comes in terms of our own subconscious as far as I'm concerned. When you look at a tarot deck, you're not looking necessarily at, something that is supernatural. I think it's very natural because we all have common experiences, and so
Yeah.
when I look at the cards and each one of the cards has different symbols on it and tells a different story, so by looking at where the cards fall in what they call a spread, you can see what story you can tell by sort of drawing the logical lines between one card and the next.
Mhm, mhm, and you mentioned that in your deck, in the Practical Tarot deck, you added cards. Could you
Yeah.
speak to what those cards are? I'm curious.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I wish that I had a set out. I might actually hang on. Do I have a set? I have something here that I yes, yes, yes. Okay, I have a set. I might have to take a second to find them. But of course I come up with this one first. So both positive and negative aspects of the human experience, I felt that
Mm.
a few were missing. One that was missing was adventure. Right. There's no card that
Mm.
actually represents that notion of, you know what, I'm tired of the life I'm living. I want adventure. I want to seek out new horizons. So I added a card called Adventure. And sort of on the more challenging side, we don't really have a card. We have a card, the Devil, which represents greed, but we didn't
Sure.
have a card representing envy. So let's see if I can do that.
Oh,
I actually created
that's a good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that we can have sort of that facet of it that allows us to sort of see that and accept that
Mhm.
sometimes we do have that shadow part of ourselves. Sometimes
Mhm.
we're in that place where we're going, "Oh, you know what? I wasn't at my best right then. I was jealous or I was envious."
Yep.
And if you see that in a reading, then it gives you tools and ideas for how you might approach the next thing or the next time you are in that situation. Another card that I thought was missing because we have lots of love and romance cards, but there
Mhm.
wasn't a card that represented passion. So let's see if I can show that. This represents
Oh,
passion.
yep. Mhm.
And it's passion. It doesn't necessarily mean passion like love passion, although it can, but a passion for an ideal or a passion for a goal or a
Mhm.
passion for your work.
Mm.
It is something that I thought we needed to sort of be able to explore a little bit more than the tarot normally allows. I also wanted to have something that talks about process, right? We talk about the fact that the tarot says, "Oh, what's gonna happen in the future," but we often are looking at goals instead of the actual process, and so I added a card called
Ooh,
Process.
that's beautiful. I like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. And then the ideal for me is purpose, so I added a card called Purpose. There's that.
Mm.
So you can see that each one
Mm.
of these represents something that is part of the human experience that the rest of the deck sort of had, at least not to me, had never shown me, and I wanted to see those facets be represented because sometimes
Mhm.
it's kinda like when you speak another language, and I talk about this when I do stand-up comedy for fun, and when I do stand-up
Oh,
comedy for
awesome.
fun, I actually yeah, it's great, I have a great time. But one of the things that I talk about is the fact that Russian being my first language, Russian swear words are very full of invective. They're very creative, and to equal one Russian swear word, you need like 3 sentences in English. And I'm not going to swear, I promise. But the
I mean,
whole
you
point.
can. I don't give a shit.
Fair enough. So okay, so I will. Are you sure?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Why
Okay.
not? Let's be our authentic selves here.
All right. So there is I'm gonna do my favorite. There's a rude
Okay.
finger gesture, right? So if you do this in
Right.
sort of the Americas, if you will,
Sure.
this is fuck you. All right.
Mhm.
Well, this is great, but it's very specific. In Russia, you do this, and it means figa, and it doesn't just mean fuck you. It means fuck you with the world's smallest penis. So there you go.
I love that. I love the additional description around it. That just yeah, that just makes it even more
Exactly. It's just so much
oomph.
more, and the cocktails are really, I mean, they are something. You say them, and you have to understand, I left the Soviet Union when I was a child, so when I cuss,
Mhm.
it's always a little bit like, "Tee hee hee," because I still have that six-year-old's memories of, "You're not allowed to swear."
Oh,
And yet
wow.
they're also so much worse. Like, I'm gonna give you one more. Okay, there's a Russian, cuss phrase, if you will, called and it's "Ёб твою три господа бога мать." And what it means is, and I apologize to anyone who this offends, but you asked for it.
It's fine.
What it means is, may your mother be fucked by the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, right? So,
You know what?
so
This is all relevant. It ties back to the tarot at the Vatican, like, it's all integrated. It's fine.
that's right. But you see what I mean, though, when you're looking at
Yeah.
the same kind of thing happens. A lot of the cards they may approach that meaning,
Yeah.
but I wanted a card that really hit that meaning
It's
on the nose, if you will.
yeah, well,
So,
that's exactly what I was going to comment on when you showed us or, you presented the new cards that you added is I could see where, in the traditional major arcana where they could like they're like the in-betweeny, right? Like it's
mhm,
like en route to
exactly.
rebel like to the tower or like en route to the lovers or whatever major arcana card is. So I love that you you took the initiative to say, "Hey, I would like to see something more explicit in terms of" and not explicit like the curse words, but something that
Exactly.
more clearly shows this human experience, and I think that's what's so beautiful about the tarot, and as you so beautifully articulated, is it's this wonderful tool for the day-to-day as well
Mhm,
as some of these major life changes. Something that I was talking to a really good friend about is a lot of folks when they're starting out working with the tarot, there's this anxiety, right? Or this
mhm,
pressure of like, I have to get the interpretations right. You
right.
know? Can you speak to that and how, someone who is struggling with that inner talk about reading and interpreting the tarot, like how would you talk to someone that's having those thoughts?
It's a great question, and it is one that I will answer in a couple of ways.
Okay.
One, you have to trust yourself, right?
Mm,
You were called to pick up the tarot, and so you have to trust your own ability. If you picked it up to play with it, that's great. If you picked it up to get serious about it, then there's a reason you did. So that's
mm,
one thing. But the other thing is that no one's ever sure, right? The best reader in all the world is looking at a spread and going, I'm about to say something, and this person's going to be like, oh, she is so full of crap. And then you say the weirdest thing because that's the story you see in the cards, and the person goes, oh, how could you
Yes.
possibly know that? Yeah. So what I would say is I invite, and this will show you the last card that I created. It's called meditation. I invite people when I teach people how to read, because I have a workshop series that I do.
Mhm.
When I teach people how to read, I invite them to meditate on each card, look at it, see
Mm.
ideas it brings up in you, because
Mhm.
your ideas based on who you are as a person and who you are as a reader are going to be right on when you look at the symbols. But also, some of this is people choose a deck because they think the pictures are pretty, but there's so much more that goes into choosing a deck. I
Yeah.
remember back in the 90s, I wrote an article for a magazine about how to choose your first tarot deck, and I went really
Mm.
in depth. And I gotta tell you, by the time I was done, I had so many different criteria that you could follow to choose a deck. But ultimately, it's, does it speak to you? Do you see stories in the cards? If you don't, then it might not be the right deck. So,
Mhm.
one of the ways to build confidence as far as being a good reader, and I put good in quotes there, is to find a deck that you like, that you see stories in. If you're doing it and you don't really see the stories, and you don't really see how the symbols tie one into the next, then maybe that's not the right deck. But a
Mhm.
lot of it is practice. I mean, when
Mhm.
I first turned pro back in college, what I did is I started carrying my deck with me everywhere I went. If I were going to a party, I'd be like, I need a table and a couple of chairs, and I offered free readings to everyone there. Right?
Yeah.
Get practice. That's one of the
Yeah.
best things that you can do is practice, 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 like you get to Carnegie Hall. And also, it's a storytelling medium, right?
Mm.
So think about stories having a beginning, a middle, and an end. Think about stories having a conflict and a resolution. Think about stories having an issue and also a call to action to resolve that issue. That's how you can approach tarot, that in a way that is practical, but also in a way that will feel good when you're
Mhm.
doing a reading, because then you're not relying on, "Oh, I have to know just this meaning." You can't, right? Because if you try to memorize 78 different cards and all of the different possibilities that somebody else wrote down, you're gonna make yourself nutty. But also,
Mhm.
please remember, we have no written record of the tarot. We have
And
no
what
history.
yeah.
So, and up until the Rider-Waite deck back in the end of the 19th century, the cards didn't have scenes on them. They had, like, instead of having the 7 of cups, which is all about options, and you have, cups with a mermaid and an octopus and a this and a that, it was just 7 cups. And you went like a regular playing deck. So you went, I okay, I don't know what this means. When you see all of the possible
Yeah.
options in the 7 of cups, then you go, "Oh, that must mean options." And then, wow, the 8 of cups is the person is walking past the cups and they're empty now, so the person has made their choice, right? So if there is a story to be told there and you see the 8 of cups, you can go, "You know what? You're either facing a choice right now or you've just made a choice." And to me, if I see the 8 of cups, I'd be like, "You just made a choice. If it's right side up, don't regret the choice. If it's reversed, then you might wanna go back and see if you wanna revisit it." And
Mhm.
people go,
Mhm.
"How could you possibly know that?" And I'm like, "I don't. I don't know that. What I know is that what I see in the card,
Yeah.
and that's the story I see for it to tell me."
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all that because that certainly resonates with my experience with the tarot. I have a PhD academic brain, so for a while I was trying to do the rote memorization, like, oh, let me get my little cheat sheet, blah blah blah.
Right,
But once I let that go and
for sure.
really, and connect with my deck and read intuitively and yeah, tell the story because I'm all about storytelling as well. And not being afraid to share what's coming through, right? Because I've had those moments before earlier, even
Sure.
earlier this year, where I'm like, this seems weird, but I'll say it. And then the person's like, oh my God, blah, blah, right? So it is having that trust and
Mhm.
just, trusting yourself and not feeling so anxious, as I mentioned in the original question about getting it right. Cause that's absolutely correct. Like there is no record. So
Nope.
just go with what's
Yeah.
being shown to you. Thank you for that permission slip. I think I'm gonna share this with a friend. Because that's the thing too. my friend also is shy to, I mentioned, oh, next time we hang out, like maybe we can read, you can read for me. Like there's like this fear, right, of being wrong. So you don't even want to practice, as you
Mhm,
said, go to
mhm.
parties and read for other people because you don't want to be wrong. But
Right.
what's wrong? you know?
Yeah, and, here's the thing, I've been doing a reading and the person looks at me and says, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And I'm like, "Give it a week." And then I get this email and they go, "Holy crap." Like I used to work at the Renaissance Festival in Maryland, and I was one of the people who read in one of the tarot booths, and a woman came in, and immediately I said, "There's something going on physically, and it's right around your belly and a little below. Get you to a doctor right now." And she's like, "That's not what I came in for. I came in to talk about the fact that I want to write a book and I can't make myself write the book." And I'm like, "Don't worry about the book. The book will take care of itself. You need to deal with this. There's something going on." And she went away, and a year later she came back and she said, "I need to give you these flowers." And she gave me flowers. And I said, what for?" And she said, "You told me there was something wrong with my belly or right below. I didn't believe you, but I kind of went, okay, I'll go to a doctor." And I had stage 4 ovarian cancer. And she said,
Oh, wow.
"And you told me to get the best team, and I got the best team. I had the best doctors. They did the surgery. I am cancer free." And then she reaches into her bag and she pulls out a book and she says, "And this is the book I wrote about the experience." And in the moment, she was going, "That's not what I wanna talk
Yeah.
about my writing." And the cards were like, "Oh, no, 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 no. You need to focus on
Yeah.
something else." And so that kind of thing, when I say stuff and the person looks at me and goes, "I have no idea what you're talking about," I say, "This is what I see in the cards. This is the story I see. Give me a little bit of time and see if
Mhm.
it pans out." Like I had another woman, she came into the booth and she did this rapid fire questions, right? She would go, "Is this going to happen? Draw 3 cards." And I would tell her, "How is this going to go?" Draw 3 cards. And I would tell her. And so she asked about the new roommate she'd just gotten. And she said, "How's he going to work out?" And I said, "Not very well." This was October. "Not very well. He's going to be gone by New Year's." And she's like, "No, he won't. He signed a lease. He's going to be here." And I'm like, "The cards say December 31st. He's out of here." And then I said a little bit later in the same reading, I said, "Oh, and you're going to have to go to court like in the beginning of June, like June 5th." And she went, "Court?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "There's no reason for me to go to court. You're not normally full of crap, but I think you're wrong on these." And I went, "Okay, this is what I see." About a year and a half later, she hired me to come do a party she was throwing. And I walk in, everybody gets their reading, and she finally comes in to do hers. And she says, "I have a bone to pick with you." And I said, "Okay." And she goes, "Well, you told me that my roommate wasn't going to work out and going to be gone by the end of December." And I said,
Mhm.
"Yeah." And she goes, "Well, he did. He lost his job. And December 31st, he packed up and he left and he moved back to Connecticut." And I went, "Oh, wow." And she goes, "And then you said I was going to have to go to court like June 5th." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, I did have to go to court because I had to sue him for all his rent, but it was June 4th, not June 5th." And I was like, "And that's the bone you have to pick with me, was that it was the 4th, not the 5th. Got it." So in the moment, she thought for sure I was full of crap.
Yeah.
And honestly, in the moment, I was going, all I can do is tell you what I see
Yeah.
and have the confidence to say what I see. And for any reader, if you're learning how to read, some really bizarre stuff is going to come down the pike, and you have to
Mhm.
have the confidence to say it because you just never know
Mhm.
how it's going to go.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, and it might be a year later as the the instance at the Ren Fair, which, by the way, we go to the Maryland Renaissance Fair every
Oh,
year.
how fun. So if you ever walk by the Ancient Mysteries booth, that's where I used to read.
Okay, fun, fun, fun.
Yeah.
Again, the synchronicities are hilarious. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
I thank you for sharing those really powerful examples. I think again, it's a great reminder of, yeah, just see what comes through and say it
Mhm.
with confidence. I think that's key, right? Because I know when I was starting out, I was like, oh, well, like, and what energy does that give off if you're so tentative with the read, And other than practicing and trusting, are there other ways to feel more confident and to find your flow when it comes to reading and intuiting these sorts of things that come through?
There are lots of different things you can do.
Mm,
I would say that, first of all, I'm gonna be very honest and say confidence is built over time, and
mm,
also be authentic. If you feel
mm,
uncertain, you're allowed to say you're uncertain. You're allowed
mm.
to go, "This doesn't seem clear, but I'm gonna say it anyway." And be real with the person you're reading for, because you know what? They're like dogs. They will smell fear. They will smell
Yeah,
inauthenticity. So just
yeah,
be real. And if it's murky, you can go draw another card. Let's see if we can get an
yeah.
explanation for this, because you're allowed, you know?
Oh,
You know,
thank you for calling me out on my recovering perfectionism. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
well,
True.
it's so interesting to me that we do this to ourselves. Like, imagine, like, you're a PhD, which I get. But imagine, if you will, do you remember the TV show House?
Yeah, mhm.
Okay, do you remember how he's this medical doctor and he's a medical marvel, he's a genius. He was wrong for the entire half hour of every episode. He was wrong for the first half hour. And the
Yeah.
patients are like, "Well, okay, I guess we're gonna try this. Oh, well, okay, we're gonna try this, and now we're gonna try this." And yet, if you're a tarot reader, there's this expectation that you're gonna have it right every single time, right on
Mm,
the money at first, you know? And so that's something for us to remember, is that if medical doctors aren't required to have it right away, maybe we can cut ourselves some slack and ask for more
mm.
clarification, you know? It is okay, I think. The other thing is, as far as confidence, I have a sort of a ceremony that I do before
Mm,
every reading, right? I have a little altar set up that is designed to honor the ancient alchemical elements, earth, air, fire, and water.
mm.
And I say this before every time I read. And do you mind if I say it? Is that okay?
Please, please, if you're
Okay.
comfortable sharing it,
Oh,
yeah.
sure, sure,
Definitely.
sure, sure. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I have a fiction book coming out this summer about a professional tarot card reader who works with the police to solve crimes, and it takes place in DC. And
I
and
love
I
it.
wrote the entire process out in the book, so it's gonna be out.
Oh, okay, so it's
It's gonna
gonna
be
be
out in
out.
the book. Absolutely, and I
It's
don't
not
mind sharing
secret.
it. So here's what I say.
Mhm.
I say, "By the earth that is my body, by the air that is my breath, by the fire that is my spirit, and by the water that is my blood, I
Mm,
welcome this day. May I bring healing, knowledge, wisdom, the truth, and the future to all who seek it from me. May my words convey what I sense. May I dip into the river of all that is and bring back what they need to hear and not just what they want to hear. With good
mm.
for all and harm toward none, so I have spoken, so it shall be done. May this or something better come to pass." That is what I say. That is my meditation before every single reading.
I love that. I
And
love that.
so Oh, thank you. And so the thing about that is that I then say, because it's Carl Jung's river of the unconscious is what I'm talking about when I say great
Mm,
river. So I think of it as as subconscious, as psychology. I think of it as I I am trying to intuit from the cards a story that this person needs to be told, the person getting
mhm,
the reading. And the
mhm,
thing about it is that at that point, I have done everything I can to keep myself open to my intuition,
mhm.
and therefore, it's not me who has to be confident. It's my intuition that I have to allow to come through.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a beautiful reframe. Thank you so much for sharing your process, your ritual, and the words that you speak before each reading. That yeah, it's coming through you, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful, and when is the book out already? When does it come out?
No, it's good. I'm hoping for July. There's a we're finalizing the cover and all of that other stuff. Yeah. So it's part of a 4-book series, and this one, someone starts killing people and leaving them in the shape of tableau, I guess I should say, of the tarot deck that the reader reads with. And so it's about, and she's already working with the police to solve crimes, but they bring her in because this is, it is my deck, right? So I created the deck as part of writing the book. So the deck that she uses is the exact deck that I made. So there's this lovely little tie-in.
That's really cool. So can you get the deck as, like, a companion with the book? Like a bundle?
Absolutely.
That's so
Absolutely.
cool.
Well, yeah, the deck you can get now if you want, but yes, it's gonna
Okay.
be available together and all of that. And you know, the thing about it is the thing that we can do with tarot is that it is, interestingly, a storytelling medium, like I said before, and you can use it to prompt your fiction writing as well. It is
Mm.
storytelling incarnate. So if you're a writer and you want beautiful inspiration, get you a tarot deck and see what kind of stories you bring up by laying cards out. You don't have to read them for people in order to get incredible use out of having a deck and working with it.
I have never heard of that application before. I'm definitely going
Because
to
I
have to take a
invented
look at it.
it.
I love that. I love that. You know, what a beautiful way to help with your creativity and
Mhm.
your process. And, you know, if you have writer's block or some sort of thing that
Exactly.
you're dealing with, like, yeah, let what's gonna come through. Because as you mentioned from the jump, tarot is indicative of the human experience. So if you're
Exactly.
trying to figure out character development or whatnot, why not use the
Exactly.
deck? Oh, I
Absolutely. I
love that.
Yeah, yeah, and, you know, in my other life, in my sort of day job, I work with people as a coach and also with companies when they wanna innovate, and so we use creativity and mindfulness to help them innovate. That's what I do, and so using this kind of storytelling is incredibly applicable to people who are I was hired by Spotify corporate to come in and do a workshop with their engineers, and they're like, "They don't do creativity. They don't do mindfulness. They're engineers." And I went, "That's why
Mhm.
they need creativity and mindfulness." And it was wonderful because they got so into it. They loved getting a chance to tell those stories.
Yeah. I mean, we all have this desire to share our stories. So,
Absolutely.
regardless of whether you're an engineer or a creative. So, that's amazing. Well, how can folks find you? Where are you at? How can folks work with you? Do you still do readings? Tell the people, you know, how we can hang out with you more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for asking. So, you can find everything you need to know about me at izoldat.com, like my first name and the letter T. And everything is there. If you want specifically the readings or if you want to make an appointment to get a reading, that's readings.izoldat.com. So I have lots of little subdomains.
Mhm.
And the other thing is if you're interested, Die by the Sword is going to be available out there. And it's everything is Izolda T something. So izoldatauthor.com. And then last but not least, one of the things that I'm doing, and the reason I got so in depth on the answers to your questions was that I'm in the middle of finalizing my Learn Practical Tarot class. So I'm going to have an online class that's going to be available hopefully by the end of the summer. So
Oh,
if you want to learn tarot, you can the way I read it because there are lots of people out there who teach.
sure,
If you
sure.
want to learn tarot the way I read it, it's going to be available within the next month or two. That's the goal anyway, by the end of the summer.
Well, I mean, what beautiful divine timing then, because I loved the in-depth answers to all the questions that I asked. And
Thank you.
so exciting. Like we got the book and we have, you know, you have your deck and you have the course coming out. That's just and you're teaching engineers how to be how to
Mindful
be
and creative.
creative. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'll definitely keep you posted. I'm gonna try that method for my own writing process because I feel
Awesome.
like I've been, you know, it's been hard to keep a consistent writing practice. So
It can
integrating
be, yeah.
some tarot spreads, I think, might be a good way to get back into
Jumpstart.
it.
Yeah, it'll jumpstart it.
Yeah,
You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed, you know? And also, like, what do the characters look like? Well, look at some of the court cards. Maybe you'll get inspiration on even the color of their eyes or what they like to do for fun or whatever. It's amazing how useful the a tarot deck is beyond just reading.
well, you know what? I just realized I'm a TTRPG gamer. You know, I play role-playing games and
Mhm.
I will be running some games that uses the tarot
Fun.
for role-playing. And so similar like application, like that's how we build it essentially is based called divination. And it's kind of like inside out-esque where we use the cards to develop the person that we're a
Mhm.
part of. And then folks pick, you know, aspects of the major arcana to be their like archetype, right? So like there's the magician that's like hanging out wherever we are, like to see how our hero is going about the world that we create. So
That's
I
awesome.
just love these applications of the tarot that allow us to tell these stories and to be creative and to, you know, broaden our experience and horizons. It's so lovely.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that very much.
Yes, yes. Well, folks, I will be sure to drop all of the links and all of the subdomains in the show notes so that you could snatch the deck, the upcoming book, the upcoming course. I know I'll be certainly keeping an eye out. And just thank you again for sharing wonderful tips and history and your own beautiful anecdotes of how you trusted your intuition and was able to give these beautiful reads for people who were like, what? And then come back a year later was like, ooh, that was very, very powerful and very affirming for us fellow tarot readers out there that are still, gaining that trust of the intuition that comes through.
Exactly. Trusting yourself is of utmost importance because you're the only you've got.
Yeah. Yes. What a beautiful note to end on. With that said, I am so excited that I didn't even get to mention this. I was so excited about this conversation. I'd been on a bit of a hiatus because I got COVID at the time of this recording. I got COVID at the start of the month. And so you're
Oh,
my
no.
first guest in a couple of weeks. And what a
Wow.
beautiful energy. So we're back
Thank
on
you.
track. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. We're back on track. Next week, we're going to have Tina Gunn with us, the owner and developer of Your Backup Plan, and about how to be agile and prepared for the unexpected. It doesn't have to be super scary. It doesn't have to be, this treacherous thing, following the tarot human experience. These are all things that happen to all of us. So that should be an awesome conversation. I'm excited that I'm back healthy and ready to do more of these. So thank you again for being a part of this wonderful conversation, and I hope that you all have a wonderful and amazing rest of the week. Take care. Bye.